This right here is the MagicX Zero 40, which sounds like a Wi-Fi password, but it's actually an Android handheld that runs DS games really well. In fact, so well I instinctively tried to blow in the mic. It's got a nice screen, joystick control, enough power to run your childhood, if your childhood was mostly Pokemon, Mario, and trauma from losing your stylus. What's going on today, Internet? Selfish here with Retrospect. Today we're going to take a look at this handheld and find out if this is the ultimate budget emulation device for DS, or just another plastic rectangle with trust issues. Let's take a look. Before we get into it, this here handheld was provided to me from our friends over at Mech DIY for the purpose of a fair and honest review. To keep it fair and honest, they will have no input in it and they will not see it before you do. But do yourself a favor, use my code on the screen here, Retrospect16. If you do want to pick yourself up a MagicX Zero 40, you will save yourself 16% over on Mech DIY's website, and there'll be a link for it down in my thingamabob. Honestly, these guys are awesome. I work with them all the time, and they are one of the biggest supporters of the channel. So if you do decide you want to get one of these and you want to support the channel, that would be a good way to do it. But let's get on to the review. All right, let's take a look at the MagicX Zero 40. I'm just going to call it the 40 or the Zero 40. I don't know. It's got too many names, and so it's a little confusing. But they did put it in a really nice box. Mech DIY does have their sticker right there, which is kind of neat. And this is a very nice box. Now, they did partner with Ampone on this. So it's MagicX and Ampone that actually put this together. As you can see, they are the publisher. MagicX has been putting this together for a while. I kind of think it was a good idea for them to go with a publisher. That gives them an opportunity possibly to bring us more devices if they kind of pool their resources. So this is the white version. There is only two. There's a white or a black. And this is really a handheld made for playing DS. So let's take a look. Ooh, one thing about Ampone taking over to the publishing part is these boxes are a lot harder to get into. There we go. All right, here's our device. We will put it off to the side here. Let's see. I'm going to guess that we have a cable in here, maybe. We do have a Type A to Type C cable. This is going to be your typical Type A to Type C that we see in most things. It's white, so it's not really marked, but it should be like any of the other retro handhelds out there. 5 volts, 2 amps. I'm just guessing here without looking at my cheat sheet, but that sounds about right. If it's different, I will put it up on the screen for you. Let's see what we got under here. Aha! So we do have a full origami accordion in here. Of course, I never opened it on the English side somehow. I don't really look ahead of time. I probably should start doing that. I know I've said that before. We can put this on the lower cam if there's stuff in here you want to read or take screenshots of. I can go by really fast, so it's really annoying and hard to do. Actually, you can see right through this paper, so you're probably not going to be able to do it anyways, to be honest with you. It's not good paper for that. But yeah, we got lots of good info here, it looks like, including how to do some settings and things. This does use the DOM launcher, so it is a little different, but if you've ever used Daijishu, it's going to be very similar to that. I know they say that it's from the ground up, but you can't go from the ground up and look so much like Daijishu. It's just not even a possibility, but it does work very well, and they did a good job. It's not exactly the same, so this actually works pretty well too if you don't have a touchscreen, which we do have a touchscreen here, but if we didn't have a touchscreen, the DOM launcher can be used pretty well on a normal screen. Wow, this thing really just kind of wraps up in there. Look at that bad boy. Let's get this stuff out of the way, and let's get that handheld out. Oh, come on. I'm just batting 1,000 here tonight. All right, and we are in here. Now, I kind of wish in that packaging that we just went through that we would have had a screen protector. I know beggars can't be choosers, but it would be kind of conducive to this handheld to have a screen cover come with it, just because of how big the screen is. I feel like that would be very beneficial, but whatever. Not that big of a deal. It does look really nice. This is a nice handheld. Ooh, yeah, feels pretty good too. We will start by going through the I/O, and I will put the specs up on the screen for you here at the same time. I already got a fingerprint on there. I just noticed it when I flipped it over. Remember to clean that when we flip it back over. All right, we do have our shoulder and trigger buttons. They are very, very short throw micro switches. We have seen shorter, but these are really short. They are quiet though, which is really nice. A lot of times when you get them this short, they are very clicky. Not the case here. We do have a 3.5 hole right there for your headphones if you're one of the headphone peoples. We do have an OTG hole for all of our OTGs, and we do have a DC hole for our charging. On the back here, we do have ventilation, which looks like it's for active cooling. I do not believe this has active cooling in it, but because the CPU that's in here is the Allwinner A133P, that CPU tends to get a little bit warmer, so I think this is a great idea. Give it a little ventilation, maybe it won't get so warm. And that also means it's stuff behind the screen, so you got like dual the heat there. You know, that should actually help with some of that warmth we got back there. And then oddly enough, it doesn't say MagicX, it actually says Ampone on the back. Interesting. I mean, I know that they produced it, but it worked. And it does look like our rating here is 5 volts and 8.5 watts. Cool. On the right-hand side over here, we do have both SD holes for your games and for your operating system type stuff like that. I'm only running one card here. I believe it's a 128. It is the Coxia, or whatever, however you can pronounce it, 128. So this will have plenty of storage for me on there. It is weird to see an Android device with dual SD card slots, honestly, the more I think about it, but it is what it is. And then we do have our power button right there. On the right-hand side over here, we do have our volume up and down, and that's going to be it for there. On the bottom, she's naked. Nothing on the bottom, but some nice little curves. All right, then we go to the front of the screen here. We do have a 4-inch IPS display, which is 480 by 800, and that 800 is going to be your length right there. So really long display, and that is going to be great for DS. Without having two screens, the other way you would do it would be like this. Like I said, it does have that A133P in there. We do have our face buttons here. They are quiet. They are a little stiff. As you can see them there, though, they do have a really good rebound. They bounce back well. They just are a little stiff. I think, though, that they won't be stiff very long. I think this membrane will kind of break in real quick, and they're obviously not connected. We're not hitting one and another one's moving or anything like that, so that's okay. Our D-pad here, also a little stiff, but this one has a better central pivot than the 028. I actually think that these face buttons are from the 028 as well as this joystick. This is going to be your joystick that you'll find on your Retroids or your AYNs or your other MagicX devices. They do use that same joystick. We do have our home button right there, and then we do have start and select right here. These are a little bit harder to push, but not a big deal. And I think that what makes them harder is just they're smaller. And then we do have dual speakers or stereo speakers on the front here, one on each side coming out of there. Very cool. These do have Wi-Fi in them, but they are Wi-Fi 2.4, so it's not the fastest Wi-Fi, but it'll do the trick for the things that you need it for. Because I'm curious, we're just going to look at this and a 028. So definitely the same stick. Yep, I think it's the same. I mean, this one's obviously clear, but I think it's the same D-pad. It has it okay, but it's not as good of a central pivot. This one seems to have a better pivot on it. The membranes on these buttons are a little bit stiffer, but these are the same buttons too. Yeah. And this home button I think is the same. This one, yeah, they both have the G on them too. Yeah, look at that. So yeah, so they reused a lot of stuff from the old one, which is exactly what you want to do if you have the ability to do that, because there is a lot of R&D that goes into something as simple as a button. So as a new company, or newish company, they save themselves a lot of money in R&D that way, and I think they transferred them over well. These have the stiffness of like the new Ambernick devices. So if you've used the RG35XX Pro, it has these same kind of buttons, or the G350. They're just a little bit stiffer for the Ambernick buttons, but it feels like almost identical to this for that membrane right there. We'll make this a pretty quick video today. Once I use a little bit more, we'll come back and do a more in-depth video on it. When we're going to get it started up here real quick. So far, what I've used out of this, it's been a really interesting handheld. It works really well for DS, even better than you'd think it would. So I'm one of those people that doesn't really like emulating DS on a normal handheld. And the reason being is, if I have to flip screens, which is the easiest way to do it, really, unless you want some tiny screens on most of these handhelds, is to just have it rotate screens. But I feel like it loses the immersion of playing the games on DS. Where with a handheld like this, you're not actually having that problem because you don't have to flip screens. They're both right here in front of you, which I think is phenomenal. This reminds me of the non-clamshell version of the DSs, which those actually had two separate screens. So you had that little separation between, and you're still getting a little bit of separation here. That's how these are designed, so that you can actually kind of differentiate between the two screens, but you're not losing your immersion when you're playing games like you do on most of our retro handhelds we have out today. The other thing that I found on here that I really do enjoy is vertical arcade games. I'm a big pinball fan. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know I love playing pinball games, and this is phenomenal for my arcade style pinball games. You can jump in there, you have this whole pinball surface, and it's so cool. And that's another thing where you lose immersion when you're playing on a normal handheld, especially like a lot of these 3.5-inch handhelds that we have. Like with pinball, for instance, sometimes it'll use more. Like if you're playing it on DS, it uses both screens. But if you're just playing pinball through MAME or anything else, your best option is to go Tante mode, and then your controls are sideways. So then you have yourself playing with your controls sideways, so you can play pinball in Tante mode, so you get a longer screen. Here, that screen's built right in. In fact, you actually end up adding a bezel to it in some cases, depending on the game. If you really want it to fill out correctly, in some of these games you're going to end up using bezels. Some of the games you can stretch to. but this is a very good handheld for those two things specifically. Now, when you get into other systems, depending on the system, you're either going to play the top half of the screen, the bottom half of the screen, the middle of the screen. Really, every emulator handles this screen a little differently, and I think it's because it's new to the market, and this screen's not really written in the emulator, so they don't really know how to handle it. But if you're trying to play the correct resolutions, it's going to be all over the place, because there's just not another screen like this, and none of the systems are made for this particular screen. It would be kind of weird, though, if they were. You could play like a Sims game and have them be super tall so they look like real people walking around. I think that's what this screen should be used for. I haven't tried playing The Sims. I think it would look funny on here right now. But yeah, so this definitely has some things that it does very, very well. And like I said, the controls feel good. I love the joystick. They did a good job in setting it in like a recess here into the device. It actually makes this goofy looking device pocketable. The other thing too is they cut these little ledges down here, which makes it really easy to hold on to when you're playing. This is a very surprisingly pocketable device. And I'll give you an example. So we just had this handheld come out, right? So we have the RG Slide. This is about the size of an RG, not even much different than an RG Slide without all the girth and everything else. Just a little bit taller, but it's so much thinner that this is a more pocketable device than your RG Slide would be, which I just think is crazy. It's insane how different those are. Now, the RG Slide does work good for Tante games as well, because you can play it up and down. So it does pretty well with that. You are likely going to use touch controls, unfortunately, because otherwise you'd be playing like way over here to be weird. The other thing you'll notice too is the screen on this one is not centered like it is right here. So this isn't necessarily as good of an experience. It, again, will take your immersion out of the game sometimes when you notice little things like that. I think MagicX did a really good job here taking away some of those barriers to make it better. But again, not the greatest for other things. I've actually had some really good battery life on this too, which has been kind of surprising. It doesn't get super bright as far as for outdoors. So right now the screen, it's probably as bright as it goes. Yeah, almost. So right now the screen's as bright as it goes. Now we're in a bright environment, right? Because I've got studio lights, but still like, so you can see it here, but if you bring it outside and get a little bit of a glare, you're not going to see it well. This does have decent viewing angles for how this screen is set up. It's not the worst, but it doesn't handle the light very well. Now it does get nice and dim. And I'll show you that because you can do this in the dark, which is kind of nice. I still have a little bit of light from my monitor, so it's not looking as dim as it gets. It looks like it's the same brightness, doesn't it? Well, I'll tell you what, in bed it actually does get fairly dim, so it's not terrible. And maybe that's just this menu, I don't know. But it still looks really bright. It's got to be my monitors are brightening it up. But that's okay. But just to kind of give you an idea, it does get dim. So here would be brighter. So yeah, so I mean, you can kind of still see it's a lot brighter this way. I'm going to do some gameplay for you here real quick, just to kind of show you what I'm talking about. And then we'll just kind of button her up here at the end. The screen in general looks really good. Also, I found that if I'm looking to read something online, this works really good for that. And my comic books, because of the way the screen's laid out, it is a taller screen, so it's almost like a notebook. It's almost like having an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper there. And so if you want to go through your comics or if you want to read through articles online, this works really good for that. I typically don't use my handhelds for the comics I do, but not definitely looking stuff up online. And I just accidentally stumbled upon the fact that I really do enjoy using the web on here. So something just to kind of keep in mind. But there are a lot of cons on this handheld as well. So you really have to be the target audience for this. And I want to make sure that we are definitely transparent here. If you're looking to play a lot more than DS and arcade games, especially in Tante mode, doesn't have to be, but definitely best in Tante mode, this might not be the best handheld for you. That likely will not be, because you're going to get frustrated because you're going to be dealing with tiny, tiny little screens all the time. At that point, you might as well get yourself a mini handheld of some sort, mini or micro handheld, so you don't have something this big. Now, this is super pocketable. It's super comfortable to use. I think it's really comfortable to use. I keep thinking that it shouldn't be comfortable, but you might be even better off going with something that's just a different design altogether if you are looking to play other systems. PSP, though it plays on here, doesn't look good. You can get some Sega Saturn games to work on here. Don't look real good. You can get N64 and some Dreamcast on here. Also, don't look that great. That's just a scaling issue. That's nothing wrong with the systems. The systems work fine. They work just like they do on something like a emu-brick, which might be a good alternative if you want to play other systems than the ones I listed, because that's my favorite EDC device. It's still only a 3.2 inch screen, but it is a very, very nice screen, and it doesn't matter how small it is. You can read everything on it because it's the clarity on it is that good. But I am going to continue using this device because, again, I'm a DS junkie, and I feel like I, over the last few years, haven't had a lot of time with my actual DSs, which means I haven't played a lot of DS, and I'm realizing how much I really like my DS games, and this really makes it happen. And this isn't a very expensive handheld for what you're getting here. I think they did a pretty good job. I think they priced it correctly, which is good. And again, there will be a link down in my thingamabob to MacDIY that does help support the channel. Also use my code RETROSPECT16, save yourself 16% if you want to pick one up from them. And thank you again, MacDIY, for sending this over for review so I could take a look at it. Now, there is a lot of people that hate this handheld unless you want to play a lot of DS. And again, they're going to say, well, play it on a DS, which I completely, again, understand. But then I have this arcade mode on here. You really have to be the customer that this is made for this to be the right device for you. But if you are that customer, you are absolutely going to enjoy this, I think. And again, I'm going to put it through some more paces here, give it a few more days, and just make sure everything on here is good. But the build quality on here, everything seems good so far. I thought I was getting hooked on this bottom lip down here. I kind of do, but then I just moved my fingers and I found I was more comfortable holding it another way. So if you feel like you're getting clipped on this lip, just try changing your hands. The only other thing that I think that I would change here would be making these buttons bigger. There's definitely the real estate here in order to have bigger buttons. So the fact that it doesn't have those buttons just seems like we're missing an opportunity here to use up some of this space and be able to get a little bit better gameplay out of it. So that would be a recommendation I would make. Now, I understand why they did go with these buttons, but at the same time, sometimes you have to take some chances and maybe get away from what's the easiest and probably the most cost-effective when you have so much space as we do here. It wouldn't be so obvious if it was a smaller handheld, but obviously this isn't exactly a small handheld. This obviously is not a handheld for everybody, and I can understand that. I think that that's a completely valid point. I don't even know that this would be a handheld for me if I didn't have it in my hands, because I thought it was a little goofy, which is why I wanted to review it, to be honest. But this actually gives me a new DS experience that I didn't think I was actually going to get out of this, and I'm extremely happy about that. So I think that that for me is a win. It's not going to be a win for everybody. But I do want to say that I'm really glad that MagicX did come out with this handheld. This is something new. In a space where if you are going to continue to collect handhelds or try to get the newest thing, they are all almost the same. I don't know how many more R36 iterations we're going to see, but I have a couple more that I actually need to review yet. So there has been a pile of those with the 3326 SoCs in them. We are starting to see more of the A133P SoC, but nothing like we're seeing with the 3326. And this is just by far a less used SoC, and it creates a really different experience. So I am glad that they took a risk here. I hope that they continue to do that. I'd love to see some updates to this, make it even more powerful, make it be able to do like some more emulation, maybe do some tweaking with the screen size, things like that, and see if they can't even keep it similar in size to what we have here, but give us a little bit more real estate. We'll see what they come up with. MagicX has been kind of an innovator on their own here in the space for a while now, and they are doing some phenomenal stuff. So I just wanted to say I'm really glad they made this. Whether this device is for you or not, the 040 definitely has a place in this community for certain people, and it'll also help to push the community and the manufacturers forward. So the 040 might not fold like a DS, but it definitely delivers where it counts. DS emulation and arcade Tante mode. A surprisingly nice screen, the ability to run half your retro backlog without catching on fire, though you're likely to use a lot of screen real estate untouched when doing so. Sure, it's not perfect, touchscreen mapping can get funky, and Android still does that Android thing. But if you're looking for a budget-friendly way to relive your DS glory days, this little guy might just be it. It sure brought back that spark for me. But that's all I got for you today. Hit that like button if you've ever blown into a mic to make a game work, subscribe for more handheld chaos, and drop a comment down below for the first DS game you're going to fire up on this thing. Or just a DS game that you really like to play that I can check out for myself. If you want to check out the MagicX Zero 40 for yourself, the link's down below. Yes, it's an affiliate link, and yes, I will use the money to buy more handhelds I probably don't need to make content, so you don't have to. Once you're done with all that, please check out one of these videos up here that YouTube is telling you to watch. It'll be good for both of us. But that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.